go over it. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Can't go around it. I guess we'll swim across it. I guess we'll swim across it. Hey, let's get out those crackers. And the thermos of milk. All right. All right. We're going on a bear hunt. Going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. We're going to catch a big one. With big green eyes. With big green eyes. And a fuzzy little tail. And a fuzzy little tail. Look over there. Look over there. It's the Jello swamp. It's the Jello swamp. Can't go over it. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Can't go around it. I guess we'll go through it. I guess we'll go through it. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going on a bear hunt. We're gonna catch a big one. We're gonna catch a big one. With big green eyes. With big green eyes. And a fuzzy little tail. And a fuzzy little tail. Look over there. Look over there. It's a cave. It's a cave. Can't go over it. Can't go over it.
Going on a bear hunt.
Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Can't go around it. I guess we'll go through it. I guess we'll go through it. Big green eyes. And a fuzzy little tail. A fuzzy little tail. It's a bear.
What the freak happened here? What the freak happened here? Take a seat in the organized territory. Going on a bear hunt. I wonder if there's gonna be space for everybody.
It says on that. Not really.
Oh, we did a tree down for me.
Going on a bear hunt.
Really? Oh! I want to do one.
Going on a bear hunt. Take a seat in the organized territory. There's always one. There is just always one.
Can't go over it. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Can't go around it. I guess we'll go through it.
Find a seat in the organized territory. Might be a little cramped. Understand? Might be a little cramped. Gonna catch a big one.
Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Can't go around it.
Gotta go through it.
I don't want to know it. That ain't a problem. I jumped that. See, watch this. I jumped this way. I'm going to jump this. See that go here. It says that I have to go on a bear hunt out there.
No secrets tonight, baby. Hey, phones, earbuds, come on, do the right thing.
the jello. Good, can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it.
Round it.
We're going on a bear hunt. We're going on a bear hunt. We're gonna catch a big one. We're gonna catch a big one. Big green eyes.
Big green
And a fuzzy little tail. Look over there. Look over there. It's a cave. It's a cave. Can't go over it. Can't go under it.
What happened to that?
We're going on a bear hunt.
I'm not playing.
Find a place in the organized territory. Organized territory.
You walk around now. I have to be what I can't go
Let's all sing together.
Green eyes. And a fuzzy little tail.
Tail.
Fuzzy little tail. It's a bear.
Never been on a bear hunt before?
Shut the door. We went on a bear hunt.
All right. Who's wondering what's going on?
I am.
Good. I need volunteers who are willing to put on a costume and say some lines. All right, James, TJ, Nicole. And she needs her partner. You can do it. All right, cool. All right, first strong, enthusiastic example. James. Right here. James. Here's your outfit. Put it on. Put it on. And you shall finish off with the powdered wig.
No.
Let me, no, Alexa,
I'll do it. I'll put her off.
let me introduce you to our conversation about the presidency of Thomas Jefferson. This young man right here is Thomas Jefferson.
We might not have to wear it.
Okay, please. Got
Thomas Jefferson, take your position behind the podium.
it. Oh,
Next up, we have General Napoleon. Shall be TJ. General.
Wait a minute, it switched here.
It's true, he is the short one, isn't he?
General between
Napoleon.
Yeah.
Napoleon. It is straight up backwards, my friend. Straight up backwards. Now, I'm going to give you a label. Go ahead and clip this to the front of your shirt, okay? So we get that right here. Clip this to the front of your shirt. And TJ, Velcro a little bit. Velcro together. That's right. Go look, drip or drown. You know what they say. That's it. Okay. Oh.
I would rather drown.
General Napoleon, you come with one more thing. Put your arm through that. Let me go over your head and shoulders. Okay. And must finish off with every good attire needs a hat. Go ahead and clip this to the front of your. Alright, you two. The dynamic duo. The Stash Sisters. The Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm not wrong.
The Olsen twins. Alright, I got 2 hats and 1 blouse. So decide on the hats.
I'm not wearing it.
That's not a canteen. That's
Nicole wear the blouse. Nicole wear the blouse. But I do have, that's here, Alexia, this.
She can hold the bladder of an
Alright.
animal.
Now, Thomas Jefferson is starting right here.
I'm wearing a power.
Napoleon, I want you to stand right in front of the globe. And ladies, you are Lewis and Clark. I want you to clip this to your shirt with your attire.
Short Napoleon.
I want you to clip. And you know what? Not wrong. He's making fun of you.
I don't care.
He's making fun of you.
He's making fun of my Powerpuff Girl shirt.
He's making fun of
No,
James
he didn't
being
make fun of me for
short.
my Powerpuff.
Oh, well, that's different. All right, you are number 2. Okay, that's gonna be
We
you.
gotta trim the front
You
of
have your separation. Number 1.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies, you're gonna share the lines of number 3. You're just kind of staying together at the same time. Ladies, I want you to start in St. Louis. Okay, I'm speaking to Lewis and Clark. I want you to start in St. Louis.
I am the president.
Start sticking it up here. All right.
Are we here?
So you're on this side of St. Louis. So I'll set the stage a little bit here. What we have is the organized portion of the United States. St. Louis is a western boundary. And I want you to imagine this right here is the Mississippi River. Mississippi River is the boundary of our country at this time. And into the great unknown is the unorganized, unclaimed western territories all the way to the what, Alex? Pacific Ocean. All right. So our characters here, President Thomas Jefferson, Emperor Napoleon of France, and Army Captains Lewis and Clark, Meriwether Lewis, William Clark. They have a little bit of a skit to walk us through. So now they haven't seen these lines before. Well, here's what I expect. Energy, enthusiasm, and tone inflection. All right, so take us through the script, Thomas Jefferson, from the top.
Boy, I sure wish I had. Oh, hang on. Hey, I got that wrong. My bad. Boy, I sure wish I could have access to a major port city that would connect my country to the Mississippi River. I would be able to do so much business that way.
Can't do a French accent, but no. Napoleon's script says in a French accent.
French accent.
So I
Do
expect
it.
a French
Do it.
accent.
Do
it! Like
I
the baguette! We need the baguette!
Yes.
Something like that.
Be loud. Speak to your chest. With your chest, TJ.
Hey man, I have a port city for sale over here. It's called New Orleans. It just so happens to be connected to the Mississippi River. You interested?
Wow. What the chance of, I'm interested. How much are you asking for? Thank you. It's so straight out.
How much money do we have in our country to spend? So we're having a whispered conversation here, but I want you to speak up loud enough that we can actually hear each other here, right here.
Well, it's pretty important to me. I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to spend my country's money like this, but if he's willing to sell, I think we could offer $10 million.
Hey, so you know what? Good negotiation is to never say your price first. Why don't you go ahead and ask him what he's willing to sell for?
So, how much did you say?
You know what, buddy? I actually have a whole chunk of land that I'd be willing to part with for the nice round number of $15 million. It's those 875,000 square miles here to there. Are you interested in all of that?
Wow, that's like 4 cents.
Act loud.
Wow!
Oh.
That's like 4 cents an acre. This will like double the size of the space I have right now. I'm not sure if I'm really have the power to make that deal, but yeah, buddy, you have a deal, man. I know.
Now talk to them. Hey, Mr. Secretary.
Hey, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, sir.
They really are. Tell trouble.
You're good at hiking and camping and stuff, right?
Yes, sir. Wait, you didn't finish it.
I know. Oh, I You learned that in the army or something.
Yes, sir.
Well, do I ever have a job
Talk
for you?
normal for this line. Talk normal-ish. It's a long line.
Well, do I ever have a job for you? Find yourself a team, go to the edge of that country, and then goes past it into all of that unexplored stuff that I just bought. And I want you to do three things. Find out if you can get here from there entirely by water. Draw pictures and take notes on all the plants, animals, and resources you find out there, and extend the full fellowship of the United States to everybody you meet out there, and let them know they're living in our country now.
On the way, sir. See you in a few years.
Now go explore. Go
Can we
explore.
just,
Go explore.
okay.
Okay, going on a bear hunt. Can't go over it. Can't go over it. And scene. Applause for the not quite ready for prime time players. Woo! Okay. I'm not sure we're going to see that on the stage near you anytime soon. But no, the three of you, four of you, hang right there real quick. I got to get a picture of my participants. I want you to stand right there.
You have to
Stand
put
right
those back on.
there. Just hold it up. Just hold it up so I can see the
Yo!
Humor me. Go get in line.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. How crazy. Okay. Again, let's hear it up for our not quite ready prime time players. Hey, if you would just drape your costumes on the chair. On the if you say here, I'm gonna explain what we just saw. I'm gonna break through the difficult voices, explain what we just saw to make sure everybody understood all that happened.
Difficult, almost difficult.
Fabulous,
How's that
fabulous
difficult, man?
skit right there.
It's fun actually like that. Woo, DJ.
Well selected volunteers, thank you for putting yourselves out there. I did tell you there'd be some lines to deliver, and boy, did you ever deliver. So,
In one street there, I had a man who he just built right at the time.
did that like vibrate your vocal cords?
No, not really.
Alright, now, let's not miss it, right? For the fun we had, let's not miss it. What are you, in terms of our skit, ladies, in terms of our skit, what are you sitting in right now?
The new colonies.
This is America up to the boundary of the Mississippi River. Okay, so this is the America that we have in the year 1802. This is where we are. Thomas Jefferson is president. It's 1802. This is the America we have. President Jefferson really wants the port city of New Orleans. Now, on my map right here, that's New Orleans. It's connected to the Mississippi River. A port city is good for what?
Money and trade.
Money, yeah. It's the key to the Mississippi River. America does not own the port city of New Orleans. We got all the way up to the boundary line of the Mississippi River. But in the war treaty, the one that ended the Revolutionary War, we did not get New Orleans. So we really, really, really would like to have the key to the Mississippi River in our possession. Now, President Jefferson knows that France owns New Orleans, and France was represented by General Napoleon, the Emperor of France. Okay, so on my screen here, here's Jefferson. There's not that Napoleon. Who's that Napoleon? That's Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, yes.
But that Napoleon,
Messes me
he's
up
only
every
like 2
time.
inches taller than Thomas Jefferson.
Napoleon. Napoleon is the Emperor of France. Napoleon is interested in conquering all of Europe at this time. He's engaged in wars with many other countries, England, Spain, even Russia. He wants to dominate Europe. Napoleon has some land holdings in the Americas that are really just a distraction to him. He would rather have money than have land. And there's a couple other things that make him, not want to have land in the Americas anymore. So, unbeknownst to all that, these two come into a conversation with each other. And it happens through diplomats, right? Rarely is it the president talking to the president. Jefferson, he sends some diplomats to France, and they talk with the French representatives. And they open the conversation by asking to purchase what, James? What was it?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. For what price?
15 billion.
Nope.
Not that
The
one.
starting price was what?
$10 billion.
We're willing to buy one city for $10 million. But in negotiations, this happens a lot in life. In negotiations, usually someone's got their cards to their chest. They got more information than you might even know about.
Like playing poker.
That was Napoleon in this case. he was willing to give up a large swath of land. I'm going to show you a map in a second. Very large swath of land. And he was willing to do it for a mere
$15
$15 million. Now, hear me. I don't have $15 million. Like, I personally can't go buy that amount of land. But for a country to buy a lot of land,
That cheap?
it's a very small amount of money. It was 875,000 acres. I know we can hardly even begin to understand how much acreage that is.
That's a lot.
Do the math, 4 cents an acre. Deal of a lifetime. Even if you were to expand that into today's dollars, it would be $393 million and 74 cents an acre. Think to me right now, Alma, Georgia, who lives on, I know we all live differently, but who lives on, an acre or more? Family land has an acre or so. How many acres? Just ask all y'all. How many acres do you think? 5 acres or more? 3 acres? 5? 10 acres? 10 acres? I think we live on an acre. I think our plot of land is an acre, right?
The one I live on half an acre, but I know my papa he lives on 15.
Okay, 15, and many people in Alma have dozens, if not hundreds of acres, hunting land, reserve land, etc.
We have 15 acres. 15.
So we all kind of understand acreage a little bit, right? Hear me on this. To buy an acre in Alma today, and I know it's today's dollars, but to buy an acre today, about how much money would it cost?
Well, on our inflation now, probably
Yeah,
about a
inflation.
good 15 grand.
That's probably a little high.
I'd say about 6, 7.
Depends on where it is. It always depends on where it is, right? But between $4,000 to $6,000, right? To buy an acre around here, 74 cents for every single acre. In today's dollars, that Thomas Jefferson bought Louisiana Purchase for. It's the real estate deal of a lifetime. Okay, it's the real estate deal of a lifetime. So that's the interaction that happens here. The purchase is made. And I'm going to give you even more details here in a second. I'm just explaining our story. When the purchase was made, all y'all have been in, y'all all moved at least once in your life, probably, right? Like you, Darren said no. How many of y'all have moved at least once in your life? Right? Family, moved, apartment, house, whatever your situation is. You've moved at least once in your life. How many of y'all, your families, bought that house sight unseen? They said, I'm going to write a check for this property, and I've never even seen it before. And we don't tend to do that, right? We don't tend to do it that way. We tend to check out the land before we purchase it. But what Jefferson did was the exact opposite of that. He bought all this acreage, $15 million sight unseen. Well, now that we purchased it, what do we got to do? Double trouble back there. What did y'all do?
Oh, boy.
Look, wake up. What did y'all do? Right now that it was purchased, what did y'all do?
We just left.
You explored. You explored it. And he gave you 3 specific missions. I'm not going to rehash those right this second. He gave you 3 specific missions. I'll show you on the screens here in just a second to engage with the land. Now, you know what? I will tell you. He said, find out if there's a water route. Find out if there's a water route to cross the country because that would really help with trade. But I want you to catalog all the plants, animals, geographic features, rivers, trails, people that you meet. I want you to keep very detailed journals. And third, anybody you meet, I want you to tell them, welcome to the United States. You're living in the United States now. And importantly, I want you to extend friendship to them, right? We've been at odds with a lot of different Native groups. I want you to extend friendship. Now, whether they accept that friendship, that's up to them. But I want you to extend a friendship to them. Those were the 3 missions they had. Ladies, you go on a mission, and I think your line said, how long was it going to take? See you in a few years. That's exactly right. We didn't have this. We didn't have this. When they went out into the unknown, nobody really knew if they'd ever be seen again. In the end, it takes them 2 years and 4 months to travel the unknown, come back to civilization, and report on all that they have found. So that is explaining the funny things that we did there. Organized territory, Louisiana Purchase, boundary line, St. Louis. Why was St. Louis the listed city here in our skit?
We were from St. Louis.
Not that you're from St. Louis, but St. Louis has a nickname that's going to make it all make sense. St. Louis is called the...
You're confusing my brain because I know what it is, but I can't think.
St. Louis,
Entry to the New World.
close. St. Louis is called the gateway to the west. And in St. Louis, there's a real famous memorial. We know what it is. Monument, probably a better word. The St. Louis
It's
Arch.
isn't it
Yeah.
like that big silver thing?
The big
The
silver
big
thing.
silver thing.
Don't go in it.
And it
Don't go in it.
almost
Everybody
looks,
was like-
have you been in it?
Yes.
I got a picture coming up that I want you to talk about. So the St. Louis Arch, here, explain, let me explain this, and then we're gonna have a little pause to rearrange the room. St. Louis today, where's St. Louis located?
Mississippi.
There's actually an arch on my map, you can see it right there.
Mississippi.
Isn't that, I would call that the middle of the country, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
When we say West Coast, what are we thinking about?
California.
Yeah, right. But guess what? At the time, St. Louis was the West Coast. St. Louis was as west as it got. So St. Louis was called the gateway to the rest of the West. If you passed through St. Louis, you left organized America, and you went into the, who knows, wild, wild West. So that's why St. Louis is a part of our story, because at the time, it is the farthest extent of organized America. It's the gateway to the West. And it's still called that to this day, even though it's smack in the middle of the country.
But ain't that in Mississippi?
That is in Missouri. St. Louis is in Missouri, and the
Oh,
arch
I
right
see
there.
now.
The arch is in Missouri. So I hope that the whole room now has made sense, right? Our characters made sense. We had some fun along the way. We giggled it up. Final big point, super big point.
Ken Thomas Jefferson.
Right now, you're existing in about what portion of the room?
50%. Half of it.
About half of it, right? The organized half. So if you're in half of the room, purchasing the Louisiana territory is going to do what to our room?
Expand bigger.
By how much?
50%.
Double. There's a key word, right? The fact that we have to take out Louisiana territory, okay, the U.S. history fact we got to memorize, is that it doubles the size of the United States. What we had, you may feel a little cramped? I got you all in these, 10 seats right here. Normally, we're a little more spread out, right? Now, in my third block, I got 27 people.
Oh yeah, how did that work?
It didn't work very well. They were very loud.
Were they standing up or sitting
They were standing up. Yeah, they were on each other's desks. And yeah, it got crazy. So you guys are a smaller class, but reasonably, we're a little crowded. Well, let's double the size of our classroom by fixing the desks and getting back to normal. Go ahead and do that right now. Right, yeah, like now. Put the quads back the way you know they go, right? Let's reset our classroom.
Are you doing that just so we can help you put the desk back?
Mostly on top of that.
Can I keep looking to see if I can see over there?
I thought you already knew.
There is a skin here. That is pretty fair.
No, here.
Let's do a French
I
accent.
don't think it's away.
Don't wait, James, behind
Rearranging the room, doubling the size of the room. Any of these papers you don't need, throw away. Anybody want
You did something wrong. This here goes here. See right here? Go there.
That's the guest desk. There's the quad right there. Quad right there.
That's the problem. That is when you go over there.
I got so confused.
It was hard to understand.
How is that hard? It
If
was
I'm
hard to
being perfectly
understand.
honest.
How is that
Hey,
hard?
since I got 9 of you, I want 8 of you, and then
What?
Ezzy's in the back. Listen, I want y'all right here. So I don't care how you sit. This room has good camaraderie, but I want the 8 of you to be right there.
We need to get on our notes today.
Yes. So the notes you need to take out are this. I'm not. Everybody smile at me. I'm not giving you those blank notes. We're just simply going to be on Thomas Jefferson. Okay. Telling you the story of Thomas Jefferson, a little bit of a fill-in. So
Y'all know like my
the
accent.
past couple of days, I know it was a little difficult. Fellas, if you'll come right here. Yeah, and as you with the legs, it's fine. Thank you. All right, now that I've got us resituated, I had fun. I hope, did you have fun? Like, y'all totally did. I think we had fun. All
I
right.
got that stupid.
This is, I was trying to get to the map. This is the map I've been referring to. So you can plainly see what was the United States is in white right here. And this is the purchase, and you can see it doubles the size of the United States. 4 cents an acre, $15 million total, $390 million in today's dollars. That's still chump change. I like this picture right here as well because you can see that blue and orange. Our country used to be blue. We have added orange. And I like to think of it like this. We're puzzle piecing our country together. You guys know we're going to make it all the way to California, right? We know that today. But how do we get there? Well, I still got some story to tell you. So far, we're at this portion, blue and orange. Thanks.
What's the other color up there? Up there in the top.
Red. That's
Not the very top, this top right here.
green.
Okay, so why is that there?
Read the legend.
That's right. Oh, TJ's killing it. Read the legend. That's not a part of our story yet.
I'm also colorblind.
We're gonna. Oh, are you for real?
Yes.
For real fact?
So which one's which on there?
You know that. Blue, United States, orange, Louisiana territory.
Yeah, I got
This is how far we're. I'm not here yet. I'm going to tell you this story, but we're not there yet. This, James, maybe is better for you.
Yeah.
The country we've already had. Here's red, and you can see, even though it's called the Louisiana Territory, yes, the present-day state of Louisiana is a part of it. But we're also going to get Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, South Dakota. What is that? Minnesota, Montana. Man, I thought I was going to get some Indiana in there, but not quite. No. You can see how many present-day states are in this purchase. So my personal story, Oklahoma, is in the Louisiana Purchase, right? My hometown would not be a part of the United States if it were not for the Louisiana Purchase. So if you ever lived in any of those states, your story also has its start in the Louisiana Purchase.
How does it feel that if Napoleon didn't sell Louisiana
You would be
territory,
French.
you'd be speaking French?
Parlez-vous français?
Do what now?
Yeah, exactly. All right, since I've got you situated, let's go back.
What?
Transition. Since I got you resituated, we can go ahead and take our little break. When we come back, we'll be taking some notes.
James, why are you saying
To move on.
Hi. We went on bear hunt. got muggy. I'm telling you, like 1 degree is the difference between frigid and musty.
You musty? Which one's musty?
Woohoo! Hey, man!
And it's just one. Napoleon was notoriously bad with the ladies. And his wife even said that he found him repulsive. You have read a lot. You've read a lot.
All right, here is the expectation for today. You're going to write on Thomas Jefferson. You're going to write on Louisiana Purchase, and you're going to write on the Corps of Discovery. Okay? Those are on the back page.
I see it now.
All right, those are on the back page. Thomas Jefferson, Louisiana Purchase, Corps of Discovery. Louisiana Purchase brings you a couple of specific questions that you should answer. If I say anything extra that you want to write down, go for it, right? It's one of those days where you got to summarize in your own words. Don't just wait for like every word on the screen. Let me tell you the story, and we're going to have a conversation based on it, okay? So, we did the skit. I explained it a little bit. Here is the Louisiana Purchase a little bit more in depth. Louisiana Territory for starters. So remember, it's owned by France. France is at war with most of Europe. England, Spain, Russia. Napoleon's wanting to dominate the continent pretty much. Napoleon owns certain territory in North America. New Orleans is chief among it. He has the port of New Orleans. He has what is the Louisiana Territory. He has a couple of islands in the Bahamas where he's trying to govern in that area. And like I said, his interests being focused in Europe, he doesn't have enough attention or time or money or soldiers to be focused on things in North America. Something happened in Haiti. Haiti is a small island nation, and really inspired by our American independence movement, the Haitian slaves revolt against their French slave owners, their French masters. So the Haitian Revolution, it just turns Napoleon off from wanting to colonize in the Americas anymore. He's like, I don't have enough soldiers to try to defend all the territories in the Americas. I'd rather just trade that land for money. So that's going to bring us to the conversation that we're going to have with France. Jefferson wants the port of New Orleans. He sends his diplomats over to propose that we buy the port of New Orleans, and they're authorized to spend $10 million for it. That was the starting point of our skit, right? $10 million. Interestingly enough, one of those diplomats was James Monroe. We caught up with James Monroe several times already, right? He crossed the Delaware. He was a part of the XYZ affair, and then now he's going back to France to negotiate a sale of New Orleans. Like I said, when you're negotiating, a lot of times people keep their cards close to their chest. And in this case, Napoleon was willing to sell way more than just New Orleans. He was willing to sell the entirety of the Louisiana Territory. So when our diplomats get to France, they find themselves not negotiating just for one port city, but for a mere $5 million more, we can get all those extra acres as well. I already described it was 4 cents an acre, totally the deal of a lifetime. Here's the funny part. They weren't authorized to make this decision, but they realized it was too good of a deal to turn down. So they agreed to it. Couldn't just text somebody, couldn't call somebody, couldn't even send an airplane, right, to communicate. We didn't have that technology at the time. They had to make a decision, and it does seem, it's kind of common sense. If the deal is that good, take the deal. So they took the deal. Well, now, coming back to America, here we have Jefferson and Napoleon again. I'll show you these pictures. They take the deal, and it's good for Napoleon as well because he feels he's getting money. A good deal was when both sides get what they want. We wanted land. He wanted money. I already described that the Haitian Revolution is what made him lose interest in having land in North America. So we get land. He gets money. Everybody gets what they want. James?
How did the government get that much money in that little bit of time?
That is a great question. In fact, we are going to go in debt to purchase the Louisiana Territory. And I'm not an economist, and this gets into government class a little bit more than just history class. But bottom line, you borrow from a neighbor to pay a neighbor, and then you're just like in debt to each other. Money is a funny thing sometimes, right? The world economy is a very funny thing sometimes. Suffice it to say, we do go into debt. So that's going to be a problem, right? Nobody wants to be in debt more than we already are. And it's going to be an interesting question that Jefferson has to answer. The question you just asked is exactly a question that Jefferson has to answer. This is Napoleon a little later in his life. I call him Sad Napoleon. This is actually after he's been long defeated, but I kind of like to think that when he had to sell the land, he was Sad Napoleon as well. Explaining the game a little bit more. Napoleon offers not to sell not just New Orleans, but all of the Louisiana territory. The price is $15 million. That's 4 cents an acre. I've already said all that. Deal of a lifetime. Napoleon offers to sell all of the Louisiana territory, not just New Orleans. The price is $15 million. That's 4 cents an acre, which is the deal of a lifetime. But the problem is going to be exactly what James just proposed. Jefferson has spent his whole life as the guy who says if it's not in the Constitution, you can't do it. He's elected as a Democratic Republican. Their belief is a strict interpretation of the Constitution. Well, where in the Constitution does it say that a president can buy random patches of land? It ain't in there. All of a sudden, Jefferson is confronted with his beliefs and reality.
Well, he goes against reality.
He goes against his beliefs. Okay, he actually goes. So he finds that when put in a pinch, all that writing he did, all that philosophizing, all that stuff that he put on paper, it is harder to be a president than he realized. Right? He's finding out that it's harder to be the president than he thought. And you might find that in your life sometimes too. You might look at your class officers and be like, oh, what a dumb prom theme. Why'd they come up with that? Right? Kind of critique them a little bit. But then let's say you're in a position in your life where you're in a similar, you got to come up with something, a theme, and you're like, oh man, it's a little bit harder to get people to agree to stuff than I thought. What he thought governing was versus the reality, 2 different things. So what he does is he expands the powers of the president by making this purchase. He believes in a small government. He thought that the president should not have a strong central authority. But when this opportunity was here, he said, I can't pass this up. I guess I have to expand the powers of the presidency. And where he once was the limited government guy, now he's the strong government guy. So, yeah, how the turntables turn, right? What else I got next? So I do want you to write this down. Find space on your page somewhere. Under Jefferson would be a good place for it. Jefferson's writings were a strict interpretation of the Constitution, right? His whole life up to this point, strict interpretation of the Constitution. However, Jefferson's actions, what he actually did, demonstrated a loose interpretation of the Constitution. If it's necessary for the government, you can do it, even if it's not written in the Constitution. And that goes against his whole philosophy up to this point. I want you to think that the difference is between his thoughts versus his action. A thought bubble versus an action board. He thought, strict interpretation of the Constitution. He acted on a loose interpretation of the Constitution. So it's going to be very interesting to his overall legacy, the way people remember him. Because he's been the strict Constitution guy his whole life, and then put in a position of power, he becomes the loose Constitution guy. And we see that here today as well. All right? How often does a candidate run by saying one thing? I promise to do this, I promise to do that. And then they get in office. They hear me. This is every candidate, this is every president. They get in office and they realize that actually governing is a whole lot harder than they thought. So I like to give people grace and understanding. You also got to take those campaign promises with a grain of salt, because once they get in office, it's going to be different. Jefferson said something pretty memorable, pretty powerful about exactly this. He says that I stretched the Constitution until it cracked. He was aware, like he had a self-awareness that, man, I believe in this piece of paper. I do, but in a pinch, he stretched the Constitution. He stretched, no, I don't want to mess up my Constitution. He stretched the Constitution until it's cracked. So that's a pretty memorable statement to kind of illustrate the whole point, that he stretched the Constitution. A little bit more about the purchase itself. So technically, to justify his actions, he uses his treaty-making powers. The president is allowed to make treaties with other countries. So instead of calling it a purchase, he says we made a treaty with France, and in exchange for $15 million, we get this land. That's part of the stretching, right? That's part of stretching the Constitution, stretching the truth. But technically, he is allowed to make a treaty. The Senate ratifies the treaty, and in 1803, we officially acquire all this land. And what does it do to the size of the United States? It doubles, right? We got to remember that fact. That's as simple as it gets. It doubles the size of the United States. And I like to think about double mint gum, or you can think double trouble twins back there, Lewis and Clark, as they were in our skits. And again, the map, you've already seen the map, but you can see what was the United States, and then add the red part to it, it becomes double the size. And for those of you who can see colors, it's blue and orange.
I can see those. It says the United States and the Lewis territory over there. I
Are
see
you
that.
are you black and gray, or are you red green colorblind, or
I
there's
get,
different brands of colorblind, right?
I get blue and purple and pink.
So you can't be an electrician
I actually can.
with the colors of the wire.
I can sometimes.
Not if it's pink or blue. there's no
All right,
color.
so having acquired this land, no matter what you want to say, we purchased it, we did a treaty, whatever, right? We expanded the Constitution. Having purchased it, what do we want to know about it? Everything, whatever there is to know about it. So how did we go discover about it?
Explore.
We commissioned these two, okay? We commissioned these two to explore it. Lewis and Clark are commissioned to explore the land, and they form what is known as the core of discovery.
Did Thomas Jefferson hire them?
So, yes, do you remember Thomas Jefferson? You called out to them, and what did you say? Mr.
Lewis and Clark.
He said, in the script, he said, Mr. Secretary. That is because Lewis, which one of you was Lewis?
I think I would wait.
Yes, you
Yeah.
Okay. Lewis
She
was
Lewis.
his personal secretary. It doesn't matter. Lewis was his personal secretary, the president's personal secretary. And I mean, like, sometimes you think a secretary is a woman. That's not the case, right? He was his administrative assistant. He did whatever the president asked for him. Well, he was also an Army veteran. And because he was an Army veteran, Thomas Jefferson said, hey, who can go explore this land? I know, my secretary. Hey, Lewis, got a job for you. Literally, he said, you are commissioned to go explore this brand new territory.
Can you go back? I need
I
something
can't go
else to
back.
say.
Core of discovery. By the way, Nicole, this one's for you. This word right here, I know it looks like corpse.
Yeah, that is.
You don't say corpse.
It
You
looks
say
like-
core.
It looks like zombie port.
It is not a zombie corpse. It's
That's
called
what
the
I was
core.
thinking.
And what a core is a group. So the group of discovery, right? You will sound unintelligent if you say corpse. So therefore, I am teaching you to sound intelligent. It is the core of
Can you do
discovery.
like this? I am the corpse of discovery.
Please don't ever say the corpse of discovery. Just like anybody have a kid in the Marine Corps? When I say it's Marine Corps, it's the core, not COR.
I can do my theory.
I don't, but I'm teaching you that it's the core. If you want to sound silly, say Marine Corps.
I'm the Marine Corps.
Next time the Marine recruiter is here, go up to him and tell him you want to join the Marine Corps.
I will. I really will.
If you want to try and explore what it is,
You think yes?
Long story short is that it's a Latin word, right? It comes from Latin, and then the simpler answer is that English doesn't always make sense. All right, so here we have the core of discovery. They are exploring now. No photography, right? We're not there yet, but you got Lewis and Clark. They're two white guys. They brought on board dozens of other helpers. Okay, it wasn't just them. Two people can't go out in the wilderness and explore by themselves. They brought on dozens of other helpers to help with lifting things, hunting for food, building canoes, all that kind of stuff. But in this picture, there are two people that should stand out the most. Who are those two people? One of them.
I know the one I'm gonna say is York.
Okay.
I forgot.
What are his attributes?
Wasn't he Hunter?
Well, just plainly, TJ, what is he? He's a black man. Oh, there's a black man on the expedition. He is I'm going to tell you a little bit about him before I move on to the next one. He is a former slave. I say former because he was never freed, but hear me on this. As soon as he left the United States into the uncharted territory, the laws of the United States were no longer applicable to him. That's right. So when you're in the great unknown, when you're in the Wild West, what value are you? Equal.
Equal.
Equal
Everyone's the
is
same.
exactly right. You are worth as much as you can bring to the team. So York was known to carry heavy stuff. He was known as a good hunter. He was known as a tracker. He was an equal member of the team. In fact, at a lot of points in the journey, they took votes. Like, should we go left? Should we go right? Should we stay here for the night? Like, what are we going to do? They voted, right? Everybody raise your hand. York had a vote on the team. He was an equal voting member. One person, one vote. In the organized United States, would he have had a vote?
No.
But out here, where all you have to rely on is the people next to you, York was an equal member of the team. That's a really cool example of the equality that came in the Corps of Discovery. Skin, gender, it didn't matter. What could you bring to the team? Who's the other person that stands out here?
Dude, right next to the girl, right there with the boots on.
Yeah.
The woman. What is notable about her?
She's a woman.
She's a she. That's
I don't
exactly
care if
right.
she's a she.
Now, who is she?
She's also she's
Saka.
Saka, yeah.
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea or Wea is exactly right.
Well,
Sacagawea. Now, in this portrait right here, take a guess as to her age. What would you say? She's got to go for 30.
50.
Huh?
16.
50.
Okay, at the time, I'd say she's like 20 something.
I'm gonna say 15.
Yo.
She's 20 something at the
All right,
time.
all right. I'm hearing all the numbers, right? When they found Sacagawea, she was 14, and she was with them for about 2 years.
She's
So
14.
she was about 16, 14 to 16. This is an inaccurate representation because I agree, she does look to be a little bit older, right, in her adult years. So she was a young girl. Now, everything I just said about equality also applies to Sacagawea. One, that she was a girl, one, that she was young. But guess what? What was she valuable for? What did she bring to
Looks
the
like
team?
she's natural.
Navigation is absolutely correct, and language is absolutely correct. And what do you want to add to that?
I was gonna say
Language. Yeah, I love it when we're all just tracking together. Yeah. So here's what's real notable about that. I think you guys have it. This group of white men followed a 14-year-old girl because she knew more than they did. It is I think that's probably a humbling thing for them that they would lay down their pride to follow a native woman aged 14 girl, yeah, because she knew the trails, knew the geography, and knew the language. So all of that, right, that is a lot there. I think it represents what America could become at that time, right? At the time, there was white males and then others, but the Corps of Discovery demonstrated the equality that can come with people working together. James.
Okay, so, the girls in here, they better not take it the wrong way.
Well, that'd be nice.
Oh,
Keep it appropriate.
keep it nice.
I feel like there should have been a male navigator to.
Oh, that is so sexy.
I feel like Sacagawea would wipe the river bottom with you.
It's not.
The black dude
Oh,
first.
because
Hey, I'm telling you off, stop.
the.
So, Lewis and Clark
Come
expedition.
on,
This
I
is on
hate
your notes.
for that.
This is on your notes. Lewis and Clark expedition. They had 3 specific tasks. The president gave them 3 specific tasks. And James did say it, but he said it in his really weird voice. So let me make sure we all understood. Number 1, find a northwest passage from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. What that means is a water route. They didn't know it at the time. We know today that it doesn't exist. There is no water route that will take you straight across America. From the Atlantic Ocean, across America to the Pacific Ocean. There is not a way. But at the time, they wondered, is there a series of rivers that we can connect? River to lake, to stream, to river, to ocean.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
It's not.
It's not.
No, it's not, Nicole. There is not a water route, but they didn't know that. They didn't know that. If there was, look at my bigger map now. If there was, that would have cut a lot of time off of sailing between the old world and the new world, right? If they could just cut through America, we'll get there eventually on this skinny little patch of land called the what?
Panama.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually with the Panama Canal. But at the time, we were
Oh,
still
yeah, see, that's what I meant. You can do that with the Panama.
today. That's right. But in 1803, we were searching for Northwest Passage. So that's mission number 1. Mission number 2 is record all the information you can. Plants, animals, geography, water, people. Yeah. All the jinx. All the things that you can possibly put. And in fact, the most valuable thing that comes out of the expedition is their journals. They kept very detailed journals. They sketched a lot. These guys are burly mountain men and army men. But you know what they were trained in? Art. They were artists. I'm an army officer and I ain't no artist. All right, I can't draw today. But at the time, army
They
officers.
needed to know what it was like over there.
That's
They
right.
needed to know exactly.
That's exactly right. So their journals are full of written words for sure, but also sketches of plants, sketches of birds, sketches of animals that have never been seen before because they're discovering them for the first time. So their journals were the most valuable item to come out of the expedition. And of course, Thomas Jefferson wanted to know, is there a resource out there that I can grow and sell? Is there a gold mine out there where I can dig and have more gold? Is there a gold mine? Is there some geography that's going to be super valuable to me, like a mountain range or something like that, right? Thomas Jefferson just wanted to know everything that he could, what is out there. So that's number 2. And then number 3, this is pretty notable. They were supposed to, this is a quote, extend the full fellowship of the United States to everybody they met. Now, first thing was to say, you're in my country now, right? Welcome to the United States of America. We own this land now. But also, we come in
Thomas Jefferson told them to say this.
We come in peace, yeah. Thomas Jefferson told them to extend the full fellowship. I think that's a very fluffy way to say it. The full fellowship to anybody they met along the way. Because think about it. All the groups we talked about so far, every colony group, every time they're settlers, what is their interaction with the Native Americans?
They want to be aggressive.
There's been conflict at every step so far. So I do think it's kind of a gracious way. It's a very gracious way for Thomas Jefferson to say, let's be peaceful. Now, not every group accepted that offer of fellowship. There were groups that were and are going to be hostile to settlers along the way. But basically, he was saying, if you run into anybody, let them know they're in America now, right? Welcome to America. We own this land now. And hey, we come in peace. Let's be friends. So those were the 3 main missions overall. I see a couple of you still writing, maybe. Some of you taking, you're just crushing the notes. Yeah.
Hey, I did rephrase things though.
Put it in your own words. Now here's just a little bit more, right, to explain the game. So Lieutenant Meriwether Lewis, you will never hear Lewis said without Clark. It's one of those things where they're going to be always said together, Lewis and Clark. But it did start with Lewis. Lewis was Thomas Jefferson's personal secretary, like I just said. When he got the mission, he immediately pulled his old army buddy into the mission. He said, hey, Clark, we had some good old days together. Like, let's do it again. So he pulls in Clark, and then they build the rest of the Corps of Discovery and all the things I've said. Super interesting group of people. Corps of Discovery leaves St. Louis in May of 1804. I want to look at the dates here, okay? May of 1804. They reach, this is St. Louis. They reach the Pacific Ocean. They come up to Oregon in November of 1805. So that's 16 months. 16 months to go across the whole country and hit the ocean. How much information were they able to send to Washington, D.C. during that time?
None.
Yeah, none. So a lot of people back here started to wonder, are we ever going to hear from these guys again? In fact, some newspaper reports even started to say, Corps of Discovery, are they still alive? Were they eaten by wolves? Were they attacked by Indians? Like, we didn't have a lot of information back here. While they were on their adventure, back here, everybody was wondering what was going on. So that's November of 1805. And once they get to the ocean, what do they got to do? Have to get back to St. Louis. They get back to St. Louis in September of 1806. So in total, it's 2 years and 2 months. That's how long they were gone before finally. Imagine them rolling back into St. Louis. It's like, hey guys, it's us. Hey, we're back, Corps of Discovery. And then they were able to give their journals away, right, and have all the reports be read and all that. Yeah, we didn't die. Boy, do I have a story for you, right? I'm sure they have some stories.
I want my journal back.
That's pretty fast, though.
That is a pretty fast journey in the grand scheme. Now, ladies, your last line was, see you in a few years, right? Yeah, and it was a few years. So there they are, Meriwether Lewis, William Clark. And I've kind of already elaborated about these two as well, right? Sacagawea and York. So Corps of Discovery.
The stick that was on the plane.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I remembered it.
So proud. Plane crash day 2, you missed it. But it was pretty epic. So I think this is a more accurate representation of Sacagawea. Why?
Because she has a stick.
She has to show her.
She's younger. She looks a lot
younger.
younger.
Yeah,
she's
she does
younger.
look-
That,
That's
that,
right.
look at this, she was 15.
She doesn't
She
look
was
like
15 in that
20.
picture.
So, lasting legacy of the Corps of Discovery in our country, there are many, 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 many statues, right? And when I Googled statues, I found a whole bunch. This is Lewis and Clark. And what else do you notice?
Lewis and Clark and the dog.
Yeah, they had a dog on the journey with them. It was a Newfoundland. So, my dog lovers, you know what a Newfoundland
It's
is?
a white, big, fluffy dog.
It's big and fluffy. It could be different colors, but it's big and fluffy. And what are they known for?
Nothing.
Track. Different S word.
Scouting.
Swimming. They're known for
Oh.
swimming.
Oh, yeah.
So the reason that this dog was brought along on the mission was in case any member of the Corps of Discovery needed to be rescued in the water. And guess what? This dog saved some lives. On a couple of different occasions when canoes were overturned and members were drowning, the dog jumped into the water and he rescued people who would have drowned out. Yeah. So this dog's name is Seaman because he is a seaman. Yeah. And Seaman has statues all across the Pacific Northwest. So this is a very large statue. Look at the tree in the background, right? You can see that's a very large statue. This is in South Dakota, and this one is in Oregon. So probably one of the coolest dogs in the history of the United States.
Is that what?
Seaman.
I don't know. I think my dog can whip him up. I think my dog can carry him.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
What
You know what? Sacagawea would wipe you on the river bottom, and Seaman would wipe your dog
Yeah,
on the river
right.
bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer as to what color.
Yeah, she has a stick.
I'm
You don't
sure
stand
that's
chance
important.
against her.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
All right,
he was
one
black.
more for you now. How does our country honor Sacagawea?
Oh,
Any guesses?
It's a holiday.
What about what holiday you're referring to?
I don't know.
Sacagawea is on the first ever gold dollar. Now, the gold dollar didn't really catch on.
I have a couple gold dollars.
In the year 2000, you guys don't remember this, you weren't live, but we actually tried to replace paper dollars with gold dollars, and Sacagawea was the person on the gold dollar, just like George Washington's on a quarter, right? She was on the gold dollar. She was the first woman to be on U.S. currency, and you can see, I didn't mention this, when she met the Corps of Discovery, she was pregnant. She was young. I know that's shocking to you, right? We got to see it through their cultural lens, not ours. But not only was she young and pregnant, she was journeying while pregnant, and she gave birth on the mission. She gave birth in South Dakota, wrapped the baby up, and kept on going. Right? So Sacagawea and her baby are pretty cool cats right there. And I learned this recently. There are more statues of Sacagawea in our country than of any other woman. She is the #1 woman who has a statue made of her. So I even Googled statues of Sacagawea, and there are uncountable numbers. I'm just showing you that there's a bunch of different statues of Sacagawea. So that's pretty cool as well. I think she deserves it. Now, Alexia, you may recognize. Tell us about the St. Louis Arch. Come on up and point to some certain spots. Now, you've been there. Is that what I heard? You've been there?
More than once.
Okay.
I was like,
So
I
because
was forced to do this.
Indiana is close to Missouri, right? Close to St. Louis.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about your experiences with St. Louis Arch.
So like I feel right there.
I'm terrified of heights. I was forced to do this. You go in down here, and it's an elevator that leads all the way up here, and that's a window.
And from the
Everybody-
top,
Everybody looks like ants from up there.
I like that. So snaps for Alexia. Thank you. Thank you for
And the
sharing.
elevator ride is very bumpy, guys. Don't
So-
ever go on it.
She's exactly right. Now, this is 19-year-old Cadet Swanson in 2008. I got to visit St. Louis on a particular trip.
That's the shadow.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like running through the gate or something like that. It's
Oh, another thing,
Cringy.
it's glass up there.
what?
It's glass up there. On the top. It's all glass,
See?
even the bottom.
I knew she had some stories to share. So
That's
she talks,
totally good.
she talks about the elevator. You can see right here. The first thing you do is go underground. This goes underground. You can see that tunnel right there. But then to ride the thing, you get into a little, kind of like a buggy, right? It's almost like an egg shaped. And it's not an elevator where it's a smooth ride.
It goes
It's kind of like,
sideways.
it's stair steps. It goes cocoon, cocoon, cocoon.
There's
And-
2 seats. I think there's like.
I'm gonna do that.
Eventually, you do get to the top, and if you get close enough in this picture, you can see the windows, barely. You can see the windows, and I don't know how tall it is, but it's pretty tall.
It's tall.
And it's very thick glass, but you can see out from it.
It may not look
See-
like it's
see
tall.
those windows
but
right there?
not
There's
like-
16 windows on that thing.
If you got pictures of your visit, I would love to see them.
I'd have to go to my mom's seat.
There is 16 windows
So
on that
that's
thing.
the St. Louis Arch. I got to visit. Should you ever find yourself in St. Louis, it is something worth visiting, as Alexia and I can attest to. So,
It's always
and the reason it's called, remember the city is called what? What is St. Louis called?
The gateway to
The
the west.
gateway.
Gateway to the West, and it's supposed to look like a gate, like you're stepping through the gate or something like that,
And when you're
But-
driving through St. Louis, you can always see it.
because it's taller than anything else. I'm gonna Google how tall it is. That's a fact I need to know.
If there's a way, I would stand on top of that thing.
If there was a way, you know what, I bet
No.
some daredevil somewhere has
That's so
tried.
dangerous.
I bet
You
someone
gotta think
has.
that.
Well, I mean,
All right,
yeah,
now,
yeah.
check it out. That was all Louisiana Purchase, and
Well,
that
and they
is,
had to build it. so
that
I
is
guess-
by far the most important part of Thomas Jefferson's presidency. I am gonna spit out a couple more facts at you, and we're gonna end in about 10 minutes, okay? So let's finish out the presidency of Thomas Jefferson. Remember, all man, everybody all man at the same time. Or James, go, woo, woo, woo. There we go, that's what I thought. Remember, Thomas Jefferson is elected in a controversial election. The election of 1800, often called the Revolution of 1800. Federalist John Adams loses. Democratic Republican, we all just had a party yesterday, right? Democratic Republican Thomas Jefferson comes in. Before he left, though, John Adams gives our country one of the best gifts that we could ever ask for. What was it? The best gift we could ever ask for as a country. The peaceful, yeah, he left peacefully. A man who was defeated by a rival political opponent, he left peacefully. He didn't bring the army to fight. He didn't refuse to leave. He didn't contest the election results. He left peacefully. And that is by far one of the most important lasting precedents that any president has ever set. So that's the election of 1800. Thomas Jefferson is actually the first president to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. Remember, George Washington was in New York City. John Adams comes to Washington, D.C. halfway through his term. So Thomas Jefferson, number 3, he's the first to actually be inaugurated in D.C. He's the first to go straight to the White House. John Adams was in the White House for about 6 months, but Jefferson goes straight to the White House.
Why?
Jefferson, what you got?
Why did they make DC the capital of Ireland?
It's a great question. It's a complex answer. I'll give you the 10-second version. Ready for it? You remember the whole national bank debate? Northern states wanted the debt consolidated. Southern states had already paid their debt. In order to vote for the national bank in favor of it, the bargain was that the capital will move to a southern state. So northern states got their debt consolidated, and Virginia, Washington, D.C. is basically Virginia. Virginia got the capital city. I know that's not a southern state today necessarily, it's more like a New England, middle state, but does that make sense? That's the trade-off. That's not a part of our class necessarily, but since you asked, I answered.
I was just wondering because one of the ideas going through my head was it was
How do you
pretty
get
much,
the
it
capital?
was pretty much dead center of the United States.
Yeah. There is a great couple minutes on a History Channel show that explains that, James. So I'll pass that link to you, since inquiring minds want to know. Jefferson is the commonest of common, right? What Democratic Republicans, they believe in simple agriculture. They're not elite, they're not wealthy. So Jefferson wants to bring about kind of a common man attitude to the presidency, and especially a limited government. Not a strong central government, but a limited government. And this is going to become called Jeffersonian democracy. So instead of elitist democracy, now we have Jeffersonian democracy, meaning kind of rule by the common man, like we are all in this together. There's not a ruling class, and then the people, like we are the people. That's called Jeffersonian democracy. He says in his inaugural address, now remember, it was very divided. The election was very spicy. He says, we are all Republicans. We are all Federalists. What do you think he means by that statement? We can be both.
We're all together.
Oh, you almost killed it. We're all in this
I was just
together.
thinking about that.
Just like those Wildcats.
Just thinking about that.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Can you go back?
If there's division, he says, hey, let's not be us versus them. Let's all be together, right? We are all Democrats, Republicans. We are all Federalists. Today, you might say, hey, what if a politician actually said, hey, we're all Democrats, we're all Republicans. Like, let's just do this together.
Be about.
Mind blown. Mind blown. So pretty powerful statement that he made. I don't think it lasted into the present day, unfortunately.
No, I say it did not.
Division is going to continue to exist. Here's some of
Did
his,
I say Federalists?
I don't know what it said anymore.
here's some of his early accomplishments. Just hang with me, guys. Early accomplishments. He lets the Alien and Sedition Acts expire. Okay. The biggest complaint about John Adams was that he was abusing the Bill of Rights, or that he was trampling the Bill of Rights. Well, Jefferson lets these actions expire. People who had been put in jail because of them, he let them go free. So, obviously early on, that's a big plus. That's a big plus that he's letting people out of jail. He cuts a lot of taxes, right? John Adams is ringing up the taxes. Jefferson says, I'm going to cut the taxes, right? So that makes him a man of the people. Nobody likes taxes. He fought a war against taxes. Jefferson cuts a lot of taxes. So those are some early thumbs ups for him. Those are the things that people like about him. And I'm going to skip that last one, don't worry about it. Something I'm going to tell you about now that is absolutely not a part of Georgia standards. So just pencils, don't even bother. But you know what I'm going to tell you about it? Pirates. Thomas Jefferson fought a war against pirates.
Really?
Not one, yes,
Hey,
Like ours?
that's a war of
Like
1812. It's a war of 1812.
not one of the major wars, but he did fight a war in North Africa against the so-called Barbary pirates. These pirates were attacking U.S. vessels. They were taking them captive, taking their crews captive. Now, here's the deal. They didn't really want to destroy the ships. They didn't want to kill anybody. You know what they wanted? Money. Because always, they wanted ransom money.
So,
They wanted ransom money. So they would take the ship captive until a bribe was paid, ransom was paid. That's how they made their money. Well, Thomas Jefferson, obviously we can't let that happen to our U.S. ships. Thomas Jefferson sends a very powerful Navy ship called the USS Constitution
Oh, yeah.
to run a blockade and basically cut off the shipping routes of the pirate ships. And eventually the pirates signed a treaty, a peace treaty, and they stop the whole ransom, they stop attacking ships for ransom. So
pirates are real.
a
It
super,
was.
yes, a super small war, right? It doesn't get a lot of credit in our history, but Thomas Jefferson, freaking pirate slayer,
That
right?
just made
Pirate
my entire
slayer.
childhood.
USS Constitution, guess what? You ready to be double mind blown? Still floats today. This ship was made in 1797, and it is still floating in Boston today. Guys, it's not just floating, it's an official part of the U.S. Navy. It's not a museum, it's not a relic, it's not a history item. It is an actual ship that is a part of the United States Navy.
Hold up.
Holding
That
is a ship.
has to be a record.
It is not. It is not
And-
Boston,
And it has
just
a,
outside of Boston in Boston
it
Harbor.
has,
You could go, no, hear me on this. You could go visit it today. It sails every 4th of July in celebration of Independence Day. It has a real U.S. Navy crew, not reenactors, not historians, but it is a real floating Navy ship today. Its captain, you ready for this? Female. First time in history, the captain of this ship is a female.
Is she a pirate?
And you know what? No, she's a sailor. Thomas Jefferson could not even imagine that. Right? Think about it. Thomas Jefferson, in his day, a male-dominated society, would be mind blown that the captain of this ship is a female. So that's girl power, right? That's pretty cool. One more thing for you. Totally nerding out here. I'm the Army guy, so I got dog on the Navy just a little bit. This ship right here is the only ship active in the United States Navy that has actually sunk an enemy vessel. No other ship, all these modern ships we have, none of them have actually sunk an enemy vessel. That ship has. Now, all the World War II era ships, they've been retired or scrapped. But this ship, still part of the Navy, sunk an enemy vessel in the War of 1812 era, and it still floats today. Yes, James, not reenactors.
No, not that.
historians.
Dang, go
What else?
Did they put motors on that thing to make you go faster?
No, it's still sailboat. Still sailboat.
Really?
Sailboat. All right, round it out. Jefferson's legacy. 2 more slides. Jefferson basically handpicks his successor, James Madison. Okay, we're not going to memorize all the presidents. A lot of classes do. Hear me on that. A lot of classes memorize all 46 presidents. But you're fine. You're fine. Just hear me on this. A lot of classes will memorize all the presidents. But this class, by gosh, we're going to know the first 5. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and then we're about, what's next is James Madison, okay? James Madison, now the people got to vote on him, of course, the people get to vote, but more or less it was like, James Madison is next, you should vote for him. So that's how he was handpicked by Jefferson. And we talked about how his rivalry with John Adams, they renewed their friendship. In fact, they died on the same day, July 4th of 1826. 50 years after the signing of the Declaration, 50 years to the day, I wonder this, because I'm sappy and nerdy and I think about this stuff late at night. When they were in that room signing the Declaration, I wonder if they thought, man, I wonder how much longer I have to live. Like, I'm signing this paper, I could be dead tomorrow. Or, in fact, they had 50 years left to live to the day, both of them. I don't know. That's the stuff that keeps me up late at night. Here's Jefferson's real legacy. He was loved and loathed. What does loathed mean? Hated. Yeah, he was loved and hated. Because why? Well, on one hand, he writes, all men are created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, but he was slaves. He was slaves. And he never freed his slaves. A lot of the founding fathers kind of got gripped in their conscience and they freed their slaves. And I'm not saying it was right that they had slaves, but they freed their slaves. Jefferson says all men are created equal and never frees his slaves to the point of his death. So that's kind of a controversial legacy. He also, as we said, advocated for small government, advocated for a weak central government, but stretches the Constitution. He says one thing, he does another thing. So that's kind of a complicated legacy. I'm going to close it with this, Jefferson's view on slavery. About slavery, Jefferson said this: we have the wolf by the ears. We can neither hold him nor safely let him go. Imagine I'm holding a wolf by its ears. I'm holding him back. He's not attacking me, but I got him by the ears. Can I let him go?
No, because they'll attack you.
What happens if I let him go?
They'll attack you.
Destroy me. Jefferson's statement is slavery is bad, but if we let him go, it could rip us all apart. So a real mixture on his beliefs on slavery. It's dangerous enough that it could rip the country apart. I don't like having slavery, but the agricultural South needs it, so we're just going to keep it because we'd rather not be ripped apart. It's a very powerful statement. It's very, very confusing legacy overall. So, final thought here. Jefferson would not be able to envision the America we live in today. He would not envision the room we're sitting in here today. Male, female, multiple backgrounds and ethnicities, different immigration backgrounds. Thomas Jefferson would not imagine the room that we're
It's
sitting
very
in.
diverse.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting to think about that 200 years ago, or, what we've come through in 200 years. Final thought. You guys are like, are you for real? The history of Thomas Jefferson and David Swanson. Here's how we collide. Thomas Jefferson founded West Point, March 16, 1802. He signed into law the legislation that brings about a military academy. So Thomas Jefferson is called the father of the military academy, the father of West Point. The last time we talked about West Point, what was the situation?
It was getting overrun by the rich.
That's right. Well, and who was going to sell it out?
John
Arnold.
Benedict Arnold. Yeah, last time we talked about West Point, it was Benedict Arnold. Bad thing. Well, now, I'm going to baby step us through the history of West Point this year. Now, Thomas Jefferson has founded the military academy. There's this beautiful statue of him in the West Point Library. It's actually called Jefferson Hall, and he is called the founder of the military academy. It's created a place of higher learning for the Army, and specifically, students were supposed to be educated in engineering and go into the Army as a well-rounded leader. And to this day, that's what West Point does. Educates students at higher level learning, not just engineering, but higher level learning, and produces officers for the United States Army. So Thomas Jefferson, founder of West Point. I am going to be telling you about many other West Pointers in U.S. history. Not because it's my personal background, not because I love it, which I do, but because so many key figures in U.S. history come out of West Point. So thank you, Mr. Jefferson, for founding West Point. All right, that's really it. Which
Back to
question?
my point a while ago.
Which point a while
It's
ago?
not really nowadays, but
No?
back then, the men, they had more experience going out. The Native Americans, they had more experience going out.
But that's also a cultural construct. What is more experience? You don't know that for a fact.
Can we get votes?
At all. No. Nicole, question.
Hey, I was looking at my notes, going
Uh-huh.
on something else. I just got a question. Did George Washington really have 30 hunting dogs?
Was that on that little